everyone, my name is Shelby Anderson. In case you forgot from my introductory video, I'm a pre-nursing student here at IUSB.
And I'm Cody. I graduated from Ball State in 2013 with an accounting degree.
Today we're going to be talking about the ever so exciting nonverbal communication.
The purpose of this presentation is to educate our audience a little bit about nonverbal communication.
But specifically, we're going to talk about a few things in Chapter 6, some of the main topics that we read about a couple weeks ago, including the definition of nonverbal communication. But we're also going to specifically talk about the conflict that arises when our verbal communication does not necessarily match what we're communicating nonverbally.
You'll need to pay pretty close attention because we are going to be administering a small quiz at the end. So this is a picture of Shelby that we're going to be referencing throughout the duration of the presentation. Feel free to jot down whatever comes to mind in terms of what she might be communicating to the audience, or obviously the photographer in this picture. As we talked about earlier, the chapter we're going to go over today is Chapter 6.
So the title of Chapter 6 is Nonverbal Communication. So obviously there's a lot more to learn about nonverbal communication outside of just the definition. Some of the things that we learned about were the characteristics of nonverbal communication, the functions, and 10 channels of nonverbal communication, which were really applicable to our everyday lives. For instance, we had an illustrator example just the other day, and as defined in the textbook, illustrators go along and clarify what we're trying to communicate.
That's right. We were at a Chicago Cubs baseball game, and a hot dog vendor came walking up the aisle, and all I had to do was simply put up 2 fingers, and he knew right away he wanted 2 hot dogs down this way, so we sent him some cash, and he sent us 2 hot dogs.
Besides the channels, we also learned about some other things, including the influences of nonverbal communication, which was really interesting, including the culture and sex that could play a difference in how do we communicate. In trying to make a decision on what the actual concept we wanted to talk about within the realm of nonverbal communication, we kept bouncing back ideas, the characteristics of nonverbal communication, specifics such as emblems, but, we always came back to what nonverbal communication was. So that was really our motivator to really pick that as our concept that we wanted to discuss. So as defined in the textbook,
that's right. Nonverbal communication is behaviors and characteristics that convey meaning without the use of words.
So this really ties into the overarching realm of the class in a really interesting way, because as defined in the textbook, interpersonal communication is communication that occurs between 2 people within the context of their relationship, and that, as it evolves, helps them negotiate and define their relationship. So this really plays into nonverbal communication in an interesting way. As we're communicating, for example, between 2 people, Cody is listening to what I'm saying vocally as well as I'm saying nonverbally. So he's verbally listening to what I'm saying, and I'm also portraying emotions as well through my facial expressions, what I'm doing with my hands, how I'm playing with my hair, am I fidgeting, am I nervous, am I surprised? That is all conveyed reluctantly without even noticing. So now we're going to specifically talk about nonverbal communication in terms of conflict with verbal communication. So it's really interesting to think about. So I might be conveying something verbally, and what I'm conversing nonverbally can be the complete opposite. So those 2 things are conflicting with each other. There's a lot of real life examples that can come into play even in terms of relationships that you have very close to you, like Cody.
That's right. In our relationship, we of course have had disagreements, like any relationship. And sometimes when Shelby may be conveying across verbally that she's fine, there's nothing to worry about, everything is A-okay, it's written all over her face, her nonverbal communication is alerting me that something's wrong, something's up, she is upset or bothered about something. Now that we've gone into detail a bit about conflicts that may arise between verbal and nonverbal communication, let's go ahead and revisit this wonderful picture of young Shelby at her dance recital.
So let's look at the conflict that's happening between what I am trying to portray verbally and what I'm expressing nonverbally. So I remember this experience very vividly, actually. The guy, I was actually scared of the photographer, and he kept telling me to say, smile, smile, because my mom was in the background trying to get, that golden smile in the back. And so I was literally saying, smile, I'm happy, and look at what I'm portraying emotionally. You can tell that I'm not happy. You can tell that I'm actually kind of scared. His hair was all over the place. He was actually really terrifying. But as you can see in my face, I'm saying smile, but I'm expressing something non-verbally. You can tell in just the way that my arms are, I'm kind of uncomfortable. So this is a real life example as to how you can see the conflict between my nonverbal communication and what I'm trying to express verbally. So let's take a look at some of the notes that you might have taken. Did you notice that I might be portraying something different? And what have we learned? So let's go back and revisit some of our notes, take some more time, and think about it in the context of what we've learned.
The importance of nonverbal communication is extremely vital in pretty much every facet of life. I can see it firsthand in a lot of the business that I do. I communicate with people in person quite a bit, and when I'm discussing with them some of the emotions that I might convey on my face and with my hands might be either lining up so they get the message better with what I'm saying verbally, or they might disagree and the message can be construed somewhat. That's where the conflict might arise between the nonverbal communication.
So, when you think about nonverbals, you really don't think that what you're portraying, what you're nonchalantly portraying, you have no recollection. You can't really control it. And as we learned in the textbook, nonverbals actually convey more than what I'm saying verbally. So I could be saying, like in the example before, I'm fine, everything's okay, but what I'm conveying non-verbally triumphs all that. And I think that it plays a lot into our communication in terms of especially with everyone, but maybe even strangers. I might not be picking up on the cues and I walk away from that situation and be like, what did I do wrong? And then you're like, oh, well, I remember I had a really bad day, and maybe they picked up on, that because I had this disgruntled look on my face. So it's really, really interesting when you evaluate your relationships with people that you know very well, like I know Cody very well, versus people that I'm acquainted with or people that I've never met, in terms of my relationship with them and how my nonverbals might, adjust to that. So it's quiz time. So we're going to give you 3 different examples, and it's going to be your job to write down if there is a conflict between what the person is verbally saying and what they're non-verbally expressing, or if there is not a conflict and there's a perfect equilibrium between what's being expressed verbally and what's being expressed non-verbally. So first and foremost, we're going to have an example. It's going to be Taylor Swift and her blank space video. Alright, so we're going to start the video. So as you can see, Taylor is clearly having an argument with her boyfriend. So, what do you think? Is Taylor accurately describing what she's saying verbally to her boyfriend and her emotions that she's using non-verbally?
The next clip we're going to show you is from one of my all-time favorite movies, Happy Gilmore. Now the question is after the people ask him, is there any conflict between what Happy is expressing verbally and non-verbally? Let's take a look.
She's playing the Walk Very Open tomorrow. Yeah, all right, I'll see you guys there.
Let us know what you think.
So for our last question for the quiz, we're going to ask you, is what LeBron James expressing verbally reciprocated in his nonverbal emotions? Take a look.
Set out a goal 2 years, but I came back to bring a championship to the city. I gave everything that I had. I poured my heart, my blood, my sweat, my tears to this game, and
To wrap things up here, we talked a lot about what nonverbal communication is and how a conflict can arise within nonverbal communication when what we're portraying vocally and verbally doesn't really equal to what we're stating nonverbally. And this can be shown throughout so many different relationships with professors, superiors, coworkers, acquaintances, strangers, the person checking out the store. There's a lot of different ways that this can happen in everyday life. We also explained how this compared to the overarching theme of the course of interpersonal communication, and which was very interesting in terms of nonverbal communication is really picked up between a conversation between 2 people. For example, Cody's picking up on what I'm saying verbally, but also what I'm saying non-verbally. How happy I am to give this presentation right now. So, it's been great presenting this topic to you. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to email me. I'll be sure to attach my email to the submission of this post. I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
It's great talking to you.